Hi, my name is Maureen Magloire. I'm a level designer, and today I'm going to present you my map for Portal 2 called Cube Vacuum, which is based around the single gameplay element, the Pneumatic Diversity Vent, which I will call Vacuum for better understanding purpose. Uh, Before I proceed, I would like to excuse my English in general because I have a French accent that is really hard for me to get rid of, and some kind of very specific vocabulary that I don't totally master right now, and I might look for my word a little bit in that level. So sorry for that. Let's proceed. Um, Before entering the next room, all the custom level of Portal 2 made with the editor integrated to the game start within this room that is made automatically. So my work doesn't start here. In fact, my work will start from that door. Somehow I'm entering the first room. Here in that first room, which is very tiny, the player will see a closed door, two switches, one that can only be powered by putting a cube inside. As you can see, even by standing on it, I won't be able to switch it on. And another switch that is switched on with the cube that I require to be able to power on that switch. So the first reflex of the player will be, if I want to go through that door, which is my only exit, I will need to put that cube in that switch, which I'm going to do. So I take that cube, and as you can see, as soon as I take the cube, this switch has been powered off, but the connection has been switched on, which will teach the player that some switches are negative, meaning that when they are powered on, the information sent is the contrary, meaning false. So the door was opening when the switch was set to false. So I'm going to take my cube because I can see that there is another door behind that is still closed, and put it on that switch. And this second switch is opening the second door. So technically in this tiny little room, I'm teaching several things to the player. The first thing is that there are some negative switch, and the other thing is that there are some positive switch. And something that the player might not notice, but it was really important for me to keep it for consistency, is that in all my level, all the switches that are negative will have that round shape, and all the positive one will have a square shape. So that's it. Let's proceed. Now we are entering the second room. At first glance, the player will be able to see the exit, another switch with a cube on it, and that this cube is switching on the switch, and that all the connections are set to false, meaning that that cube might be removed like the previous one in order to progress. So I'm going to fold because I have no other solution. Explore a bit the room, and I see that back there are some more activities. And we see for the first time the main gameplay element of that level, meaning the vacuum. So we can see that there is a cube dispenser back there, which is the dispensing cube as soon as they are sucked out of the level. So the player can understand better how is working the vacuum system. That everything that is within the range of the vacuum will be sucked. So all the cubes that are spawned are immediately sucked out of the level. And you will also notice, like the player, that there is a surface here where I can lay some portals. In fact, there is one here, one there, and a last one here. Since I won't be able to reach this place to go myself try to catch the cube there, my only solution is to use the power of the vacuum here in order to remove the cube there. So I lay one portal here, I go back to the first room here, I see my surface where I can place a portal, I'm going to do it, and I can see that the cube is sucked away from the switch, and that everything is turned on. So I can finally exit the room. So in that room, we teach the player that the vacuum will be able to suck every cube that you put within his range. As I told you, there is only 3 places you can put a portal. One back there, one here, and one here. The only combination that would result in something neutral, that wouldn't have any effect, is this one. So it means that even if the player wanted to brute force the solution, there is 66% chance that the player might place the portals on the good place and succeed to understand anyway that removing the cube from the switch and that the vacuum is sucking the cubes is the correct solution. Again, to be sure that the player understands that this switch is negative, it is on its way to the exit. In fact, there is a lot of chance that the player, while exiting that room, will step on that switch and see again that everything is switched off as soon as the switch is switched on. So let's move to the next room. The next room is a regular reward for the player. In Portal and Portal 2, the player enjoyed to see the backstage of a level, of a challenge, to see how it works. And this is what I wanted to do here by allowing him to see a bit more the back room. One another important information is that we confirm by this way, again, how is working the dispenser and the vacuum, to be sure that the player really understands how it works. And for the player that are not rushing the level, so not going there immediately, this player might notice that there are some 2 other connections here and there, which will be useful later because at the moment they are not reachable. So we are going to proceed to the third room. The first thing we see in the third room is the main gameplay element, the vacuum. We can also notice that there is a connection to that button. So because of the level editor, the level editor is setting the path of the connection automatically. I understand this one is a bit long. It would be done in Hammer, the editor of all sources game. I would have preferred to put that path a bit shorter, to have everything within a screen. But unfortunately, I didn't have the choice at the time. To be sure that that button is seen, I put some lights here to attract the eye of the player. The second thing that the player might see when entering this room is the exit. And we can see that the exit has a connection to a single switch in the middle of the room. In the middle of the room to make it the most important part of the challenge of the level. And that's the only solution to escape that room, to use that switch. So the player might want to go down, check that the switch is a squared one, which requires a cube, begin to look around him, and we can quickly see that there is a cube here and a dispenser there. It's not something that you will have trouble to notice. So we are going to reach that cube, and this is fairly easy. You just need to shoot a portal there, shoot any other portal on any reachable surface, take the cube and place it on the switch. As you can see. But as soon as you release it, you can see that the vacuum is taking possession of that cube. So even if I try to insist and place the cube like this, the cube will be sucked away, but fortunately blocked by the light field. So the player will want to try to find a way to switch off that vacuum, and fortunately, if the player observes again, or if he remembers what he has seen at the beginning of the level, he will notice that that switch is connected to the vacuum, which is obviously the solution to switch off the vacuum. But this place is really hard to reach. All the surfaces are black, so I can't shoot portal, but only one surface is white and able to receive any portal. So I will shoot a portal there and try to reach it. Unfortunately, you can see that the distance is too large and I'm not able to push the button. So I have to find an alternative solution. And as I needed to go on the light bridge to reach my cube, I will use that bridge again to be able to shoot a portal there. But you will see that you won't be able to shoot through the vacuum. So that's why the player has to go on this little platform there shoot a portal, see the bridge is connected to the button, and reach the button to finally switch off the vacuum and release the cube from the sucking power of the vacuum. So I'm going to take the cube again, put it again on the switch, and open the exit. Before proceeding, we will do a little recapitulation of what we have done so far. In fact, in the previous 3 rooms, the players has learned several things. The previous room were tutorials for the following room. The player has learned the mechanism about the switches, the negative and positive switches, that some has to be switched off to make the player progress, and some has to be switched on in order to progress as well. Another thing that have been taught to the player is the vacuum mechanic, the sucking power of the vacuum, which will extract the cube from its place and remove it from the level. A very last thing that has been taught to the player, in fact in the previous room, is that the vacuum can be powered off by using a button. So the next room is a challenge that is condensing all those mechanisms that we have taught to the player in the previous 3 rooms. So I'm going into the last room, which is the challenge of the level. And something that is totally invisible to the player, but in this part of the level, in this exact place, there is a autosave system to prevent the player to start over all the level in case he might die in the next danger of the last room of the level. So here I trigger an autosave, and in case I'm dying, I'm going to start over from here, preventing me to be frustrated to start over from the beginning and learning again the lessons that I already know. So here we are, the challenge of the level. At first glance, we can notice a button here with a connection up there and some kind of corridor that is leading to a place I can't see right now. And other connections leading to a single switch there, and a lot of surfaces where I'm able to shoot portals. For me, it was important to give that little bit of liberty to the player, because the main point of that game is to use the portals and have fun with them. So I wanted the player to feel free to lay down some portals in that part of the level. So the first thing I might want to do is to try to reach that place up there, because this is the first part of the level, and as every portal player, I'm very curious. So I can see that there are some fields that prevent me to lay down a portal on that surface, and I will need to try to trick to go up there, which in fact will be useless because we'll need some more gameplay element, and I didn't want it to set any trick shot in that level. But anyway, the player might want to try to trick shot that place, so I'm going to do it to show you what happened. And we can see that here, while jumping, I will be able to shoot a portal there, like this. And while coming up there, I see that I won't be able to jump until that solid part there again. And there is something else I must do. We can also notice that the connection from that button is linked to a door or a foldable surface that prevent me to progress. So I will need, once I need to go there, to switch on that button in order to trigger that mechanism that will let me go further in the level. So I'm going to go down again and proceed to the next part of the room. And here we can notice that we're in a familiar situation. This place looks very closely to the second room of that level. We can see that there are some surfaces, a cube switching on something that is powering off all the mechanism of the room, and the player will remind very quickly that he might find a vacuum in order to remove that cube. Fortunately, there is a little corridor here that I try to put the focus on with putting a light here, which will attract the look of the player when entering that room after analyzing the rest of the level. And if we go through that corridor, we'll notice that we see the very first vacuum of the level. So the situation is very, very clear right now, and the player will know that he has to set a portal here, go back to that place there, set another portal there, and the cube is vacuumed, and the mechanism are switched on. Now I have a light bridge, and we can see that the combination of the light bridge and the surface all up there in the level is very similar to the third room. So we are calling again the short-term memory of the player. To reach that place, it's fairly easy. I just need to set a portal here, climb on the bridge, but remember that we have to trigger a mechanism up there in order to progress. So I'm going to do it, and you can hear that there is a timer. I set the timer to the maximum time possible in the level editor, meaning 30 seconds, which is way more than necessary to reach that place. It was just here to set a little bit of spices for the level, for the player to enjoy a bit more the rhythm of the level, and he will be able to reach that place in no time. So you can see that there is still a lot of time. There is another switch here in order to let the player escape that room again without any too much problem. And it's set up to 5 seconds because it doesn't require too much time to just go over that place. So we proceed to the rest of the level, and we can have a pretty good view on the vacuum. And we can see that the button that we have here is connected to the vacuum. So as in the third room, the player will know that he needs to switch off the vacuum by pushing that button. It was important for me to let the player have this more or less 360 degrees of view on the room down there, because it's important for me to let the player know that the cube will stay there. So this cube is useful. Why is it useful? In case of some of you who wanted to go quickly to the exit, because in fact since that bridge is right there, it's possible to reach the exit right now, in fact, without switching off the vacuum, of course. Some players will notice that the cube that was here was useful. In fact, you needed to take it from here and put it there in order to open the exit, like in the very first room. But that's just for the player that were too curious and wanted to go to the exit too quickly. In fact, this part of going up to switch off the vacuum is really important to be able to get the cube from that place and being able to put it back there on the exit. So I'm going to take that cube and go to the exit with it in order to power on the last switch. You might notice that there is an additional button here. This button is here for a unique purpose. Some unlucky players might have the displeasure to see that their cube were not stopping on the white surface but on one of the black surface. And since it's impossible to penetrate that room because that surface is blocked by a killing laser, I had to put a mechanism to let the player respawn the cube from the dispenser. If I would have used the hammer editor and not the inner level editor system, I would be able to put some decals or any label here to indicate the player what is the real purpose of that button. Unfortunately, the inner editor of Portal 2 didn't let me have that kind of function. So as you can see, as soon as I push that button, my cube is destroyed, and a dispenser is laying a new cube on that surface. So you can see that most of the time it lays on the same place, on the white surface. So I'm going to shoot a portal here, shoot another there, take the cube, but unfortunately the cleaning field here prevent me to bring that cube there. And you can see that the cleaning field is here on the two levels. So I'm going to take my cube again, and I can see that the only way for me to exploit that cube is in that room. And there is that last switch that we haven't tried yet. And if the player has been curious enough, he would have noticed that, in fact, that switch is a cube switch. So I'm going to take the cube and put it there. So first I'm going on the bridge. I'm shooting another portal here and there in order to go over all those cleaning fields and bring my cube to this switch. And I see that once the switch is on, I have some stairs and a ramp here that allow me to reach the cube again. Not to go back on this platform, but at least to take back my cube. And that a last mechanism has been triggered here. If I follow the connection, I can see that one of the cleaning fields has been deactivated. Let me show you that a bit more clearly. And because that field has been deactivated, I'm able to shoot some portal from here to the other room, which will allow me, in fact, to take that cube from this place to the other. And those portals are really important because if I remove that cube, the cleaning field is switched on again, and I won't be able to cross that part with the cube. So I'm going to fetch my cube. Sorry. Take it from the mechanism. You can see that the cleaning field appears again, but my portal is still there. And I will be able to lay my cube there, come back, and in fact now I just have to reach the exit. I don't even care to lose my portal now, because technically I just have to go on that bridge of light, cross the level, take the cube here, put it on the switch, and have the exit available. Some of you might wonder, but it's possible to avoid that last step of taking the cube from that place to here, and it's something very regular in Portal level. If you notice in the challenge section of Portal, there are some challenges that ask you to make the less step, the less portal, the less thing to have some kind of optimized function. And some of my playtester has been lucky or skilled enough to lay a portal here and lay another portal there in order to make the cube fall with the gravity and go directly there without needing to take the cube to this room, then putting the cube on that switch, shooting some portal from here to there, and being able to take the cube to the other room. And I really appreciate to have that kind of replayability in my levels. And that's it. You succeed to reach the end of the level. Congratulations. So in case you have much more question about my level, in the description of this video and in the description of the workshop page of that level, you might find a postmortem and a level design document to answer all your questions. And if it's not sufficient, feel free to look for my email address in the document and all my coordinates in order to contact me and being able to ask me even more questions. Thank you for your attention. I hope you appreciated to see that level as much as I appreciated to make it, and see you on another level design video. Thanks.